1730 hours on April 4th, 2004, Sadr City of Baghdad, Iraq.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
1st Platoon, Charlie 25 Cav, was escorting a sewage truck in the southern part of the city.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
1755 hours as the sun began to set.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
3 large groups of men scattered to the north as the patrol approached.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Everyone in the patrol began to scan their sectors.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
The city of over 2 million people grew eerily quiet. And then,
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
what started as sporadic gunfire quickly became overwhelming from all directions. Enemy forces across the city called to arms by the echoing calls of prayer, bouncing from one minaret to the next.
على الصلاة.
This sparked a chain reaction that threw the 1st Brigade Combat Team, 1st Cav Division, headlong into the battle we now call Black Sunday. I am your host, Eddie Lazary, and on this series of episodes, I will be talking to the troops who were there and their families. We will be following and discussing The Long Road Home, a 7-part miniseries on the National Geographic Channel. If you or someone you know served during the Battle of Sadr City, I want to talk to you. Join us over to our closed Facebook group 04-04-04. Now let's meet our next guest.
Yeah, you know what? After I got back and everything, and then when the first book came out, Martha's book, I didn't realize the scope of what had happened.
This is Chris Badilla, then Specialist Badilla, assigned to the 1st Battalion 82nd Field Artillery, attached to 2-5 as an FO, or forward observer.
You know, for me, it was my part, and then what was going on in the city with my brothers, and I knew, what had happened at Eagle and what had happened in Slaughter City, but I had no clue everything that was going on around us with all the other camps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it was the whole city and everywhere around it just lit up, man, everywhere, and it was just everywhere we went. It was hot, and we were trying to get the casualties out of Eagle back down to Cuervo because they couldn't get the helicopters in the Eagle because it was just way, way too hot. And so they had to get the casualties somehow out of Eagle into the next level, aid station, which the largest.
Yeah, because all we had was a basic aid station there at Eagle.
Oh yeah, by the time we rolled up into Eagle the first time we got there, it was still it was dusk, but it was still bright out, and we got in there, and they were already bringing in casualties into the Eagle aid station, and it was over capacity, so there was people outside the aid station on the ground, and the first thing I remember seeing, then it kind of took me by surprise. I don't know why it did, but there was like a pile of Kevlars and like a pile of OTVs, like pile of, you know what I mean? Like a bunch.
boots and
Yeah,
the
it was like
uniforms they had cut off
yeah,
guys. Yeah,
exactly. It was like each just piles of gear laying around, and
not just gear, but bloody gear.
yeah, bloody gear. And I was just like, it was just surreal. I was almost like I was seeing it, but I was seeing it while I was standing outside my own body. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't
Yeah.
believe like this was going down. I mean, and the whole time we're hearing gunfire go off and explosions
Yep.
in the background. Occasionally you could hear, like a Bradley go, the distinct,
25.
yeah, the distinct sound of the Bradley, the pop pop pop. I mean, we kind of could hear that, but not as much as you would think that you would hear given the circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, were initially trying to minimize the collateral damage. Uh, and that was a big thing that kind of kept us using small arms at first. And then when we got the go ahead, but still, you still think about how far depleted uranium round goes when you shoot it,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's a bunch of innocent people out. Not everyone's trying to kill us, but, you still got to try to kill the bad guys. We, get to Kuwait and we do our little train up there and we leave at the end of March and we drive up to Baghdad in soft skin vehicles, which turned out to be the worst thing possible. We used them because they didn't let us bring all the armor we had because it was supposed to be peacekeeping. The war's over, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what was declared is the war's over. Now we're going to be trying to build schools and clean up sewage and make a better place for these people. And so we don't need to look like an occupying force. All right, well, we were all on board with that. Cool. If that's what's going on, that's what's going on. So we drove up there, got to Solder City, and, first thing I remember in my mind is the smell was just horrible. Like raw sewage. I almost puked as soon as I got there. And so we were on Camp War Eagle, which used to be Marlboro. It was like a cigarette factory or something.
The 1st Brigade combat team was split into 3 FOBs, or forward operating bases. FOB War Eagle was our northernmost FOB and sat directly to the northeast of Solder City. Due south of Eagle was FOB Iron Horse, the southeastern side of Solder City, right along the main MSR, or main supply route, Route Pluto. Following Pluto southbound towards the east was our 3rd and largest FOB, Camp Cuervo, also known to some as Rustamaya. All 3 FOBs had aid stations and helipads for evacuation, but Camp Cuervo was our largest FOB and aid station and was the furthest away from the casualties that night of April 4th.
And 2nd ACR was there. And they were the guys that were holding it down. I forget who it was that was there before them, but they had rotated out. So 2nd ACR came 6 months prior to us getting there, and they were just holding down that area, and they were holding down Solder City. We had our Advon was there. They did right seat, left seat rides. They were told that, if you get shot at, don't shoot back. Our guys start going out, they want to make a presence out there. So they start doing patrols, start finding out, where the sheikhs are at and the different leaders and what needs to be done in the city. We're preparing to start rebuilding and everything. So we start getting these sewage trucks and escorting them out there so that they can go suck up the raw sewage in the roads that people have to walk through and the kids playing and stuff. And I remember on the 4th, I was just woke up another day. We were out, we were sleeping out in the motor pool at that time. And it came down to dinner chow, which was fried chicken. I remember because I was like, man, this is the best MKT meal we've had because we didn't have a chow or anything. And I was like, this is the best meal we had since we've been here. And then we heard shooting going on in the city. And we all were shocked. We were like, what's going on, because we were told it was the safest place. So at that time, my team, the people that I was with, it was me, and I was on Sergeant Fitzgerald with Antoine Bouillet and Matthew Rudy, Sergeant First Class Harris, and Staff Sergeant Garza. Well, it was Rudy and I at Chow And so we went to where the Brads were parked, and we were talking to FOs. We were talking to Sassar Ward and Specialist Jones, a couple other guys there. Like, hey man, what's going on? What have you heard? Anything? They're like, no, we haven't heard anything. We don't know what's going on. We just hear the shooting, and no one's heard anything yet of what's going on. So we were like, all right, well, let's see if we can find out what's happening. So we started wandering around and asking people what's going on, and no one really had an idea. And it was maybe 10 minutes later that someone came out with some info that platoon from Charlie had been out there escorting the sewage trucks, and they got ambushed. So the word was that, a platoon was stuck in the city, and they couldn't get out of there. So, we're all shocked, and Rudy and I were like, well, shit, well, we need to go do something about it. We can't just stand around. They're going to need guys to go look for them. So he and I, we went running to our Humvee, and we get our gear on. We get our kit and our Kevlar. We grab our combat lifesaver bags, and we start getting ready to go to the aid station, because we were like, all right, if they're getting shot at, they might have taken casualties, and we hadn't heard anything about anyone KIA or WIA yet. But we're just using our logic, and the amount of volume of fire that we heard from the city, we just knew that there was going to be wounded. So we start heading over there to the aid station, the tiny aid station, and we run into Sergeant First Class Harris on the way over there. And he's like, hey, guys, so I got to tell you what's going on. And so he starts talking and telling us, briefing us on what's going on. And at that point, and I don't even know how much time has lapsed. In my mind, it wasn't long time, but, I can't rely on my memory for the time. It seems like points slowed down and then points sped up. But all I remember is the first wave of wounded came in when he was talking to us. And they brought in some just vehicles filled with wounded, and I don't even remember what he was telling us. Honestly, I can't tell you what he said to me and Rudy, because I was watching them unload bodies. I had my people I knew that I trained with and everything. There was wounded unloading wounded. One image that stands out in my head, it's when I think about the 4th, it's always there. I saw these guys, and this guy had his finger shot off, and he is unloading someone else on a litter, and the soldier on the litter is just bloody, and as they're running with him, his arm is just dangling and bouncing limp, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, I have no clue what we're gonna do. I was just 21, and Rudy was 21 too. We had never been to combat. No one had ever been to combat. Maybe one or two guys that had rotated from other units that had been in the invasion, or maybe Desert Storm or something. But no one had seen anything like this ever. And so Sergeant Harris is like, hey, all right, so you guys stick around here and do whatever the infantry guys tell you to do. And Rudy and I were like, all right, cool. So we ran to the aid station, and we saw that they had medics and stuff there. We were like, well, screw this. We're going out in the city. We're going to go look for our friends, That's our brothers out there. We're going to go look for them. So we ran to the vehicles that were loading up more ammo, and we found Brad, and I threw a rock at the at the TC up in the top, and he yelled down at him. He was like, hey, what the hell you doing? I was like, hey, you need dismounts? I didn't tell him we were FOs or anything. I was like, you need dismounts? And he was like, yeah. I was like, lower the ramp. So Rudy and I jumped in the back, and we were sitting back there. They raised the ramp, and I don't know, man. I don't know how you felt going when you left your fob to come to us, but knowing that I was gonna go out into that stuff, I was really scared, you know. I wasn't more afraid of me dying. I was afraid of not doing the right thing and letting Rudy get hurt or some of the other guys that were out there not getting to them in time. While we were formulating a plan back there, it's just, you know, me and Rudy, we go, you know, like I told you, I was like, man, I love you. And he was like, I love you too. Then we started talking like, what are we gonna do when this thing drops? You know, when the rap drops, like it's just two of us. And Rudy was like, well, how about you go left and I go right, and whoever sees Americans first, you grab the other guy and we just haul ass over there. And I was like, not the best plan, but I guess it's our only plan. And he was like, yeah, I think it is our only plan. So we were like, okay, that's what we'll do. And so we sat there some more and we talked. I think my biggest memories are or being in the back of that Bradley, being like knowing that it's about to go down. You know, this is what we trained for this whole time. And so we're talking about our families, and you know, Rudy's like, we both just got married before we left, and he's like, you know where my letter's at? You know, you write your letter before you
Mm-hmm.
you go. You know, if you get this, I'm sorry, it means I'm dead. And you know, you're 21, man. You never think you're gonna have to write something like that. So, you know, it was something hard to write, but you knew you had to write it. At that moment, I'm like, well, you know, I'm glad I wrote that. And I was like, yeah, I know where it's at. I was like, you know where mine's at? He was like, yeah. And I was like, well, you know, if you see my wife and I dying, just tell her, you know, tell her I did my best. Tell her I'm sorry. And he was like, yeah, if you see Joy, tell her the same thing. And so we rolled through the city, and eventually we got to a police station because the Mahdi militia had taken over all the police stations. And so the counteroffensive was that we went out to the city and took back the police stations, and then we set up at the police station and stayed there. That was the whole plan, so that we could hold them down, you know, because they're key. Obviously, they're key to keeping the peace in that area. If you have no police, you got no show of force from the Iraqi side, then you got nothing, you know. So we hooked up with these guys. We got to this police station. We jump out, and the staff sergeant walks up. He's like, you know, who the F are you guys, and how the heck did you get out here? And I was like, we're the Fisters. I was like, who the F are you? And he's like, well, I'm Staff Sergeant Mercado with Alpha Company. And he goes, how'd you get out here? I was like, in the back of that Bradley. He's like, you got just the two of you? And I was like, yeah, just the two of us. You know, we heard you guys needed help, so we, you know, jumped in the nearest vehicle and took off. And he goes, yeah, well, we got some wounded. You want to join us? And we were like, yeah, we'll join you. And so we fell in with them, man. We became part of their squads, and we didn't do any FO stuff. We were just dismounts from then on. We were just legs. That was it. We fought. Then we stayed out there and we fought every night. Yeah, you know, as you know, we April 4th marked the first day of 80 successive days of combat for the first Cav, you know, at Solder City. So that was the beginning of it, and we fought all night, all day, all night, all day, and just did it. We were out there for a couple of weeks at that police station.
And that's the thing too, right? And people are gonna tune in starting Tuesday and watch this series. You know, they're gonna really get into April 4th, 2004. and I don't think maybe a day or two after they may cover the memorial service that we had. But after that, I mean, I don't want the viewers at home to get any misinterpretations about what really that was really just the beginning of a really really long hard year. And like you said, sustained easily 80 days sustained combat operations across the board 24/7, and it it was just the beginning. It was the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, of everything that would come. And I just remember, we had just got, like you said, we just got in the country. We were in the middle doing our left seat, right seat rides, and when all this popped off and it started, it got serious quick. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, God, if the whole year is going to be like this, like there's going to be nobody left. You know what I mean? Because we sustained a considerable amount of casualties just that first battle, and we continued to lose more as the year progressed. As a matter of fact, I lost my first guy, Specialist Johnson, a few days after that on April 10th, and it was all part of that whole conglomerate of nonstop fighting.
It was. Yeah, I remember because we got a chance to go down and go to the memorial, to Johnson's memorial at your guys' fob. But we took that first day, somewhere like 70 wounded, and then we had 7 KIA from our camp, 1 KIA from the tankers, because they were on their way home, but we did change of command. That's when everything happened. They pulled them back into the city. They're actually the ones that helped us find our guys in the city, and our guys actually rode back on the tanks when they found them out in the city. I mean, the whole time this is going on, guys are coming in and out. It was chaos. We weren't even set up with a talk yet. We didn't even have radio set up to know where, call out. It was just the regular ASIP radios. It wasn't like we had OE254 set up and everything. And those guys out there, I know most of those guys that were out on the rooftop, and their vehicles immediately, when they started getting hit, their antennas got shot off and blown off. They couldn't get in contact with anyone.
Yeah, it's like the first platoon there that got pinned down, the book is based off of the 2-5 guys. They abandoned their vehicle in order to take shelter right in a home. And I think a lot of people may not realize is no one at that time was really positioned and had a dismount radio ruck ready, right, for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All the radios were mounted right in the racks, and they knew by leaving those vehicles, they were essentially abandoning any real form of communication.
So they had a Humvee that they parked in the alley, and I think Lieutenant Aguero, he was manning that the whole time, or majority of the time, because he could get comms short, out there. It wasn't like he could reach all the way back to the fob, but as we were trying to get into the city, the different small rescue parties that were going out there, they were getting in contact with them. They weren't familiar with the city. They didn't know where they were at.
Right.
That was another huge thing. They didn't know where they were at. And so the vehicles that they had to leave out there, they were burned to the ground, and the ones that they had, the antennas were shot off, and they were trying to communicate with the rescue parties out there, but no one knew where they were at. No one even knew. The rescue parties didn't even know where they were at, most of the time. They're, all right, let's go down Delta, let's go down Copper or whatever, but hadn't been there long enough to know in your brain where you're at. You're constantly looking at your maps while getting shot at,
And I don't think the average consumer at home that's going to watch this film will have any real true appreciation for the size of Solder City, right?
Yeah.
That place
I
is
mean,
huge.
if you look at it on a map, it's not a big place square mileage wise, but the amount of people in that area is overwhelming. There's 2 million people
Yeah.
packed into like I think it was like 4 miles by 4 miles, something like that.
And the houses were
It
in, yeah.
is
In,
so populated, so heavily populated. It was ridiculous. It was the only thing that we could relate to. It was Black Hawk Down. It's just like Black Hawk Down. They're pinned down. We're trying to rescue them. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna get shot. There's like, and it was like that because everyone was attacking us. I mean, you can go off the official reports, and I would never believe what the Iraqis put out. They said, we killed 500 fighters. Absolutely not. That's a straight bald-faced lie. There was thousands of guys that we killed that night because there were tens of thousands of people fighting us.
mm,
You know, they planned this thing out. They knew that, there was another unit coming, and they had already had a plan to fight back because they are the militia. That's what they do. And they had this plan. They organized it. They had groups of hundreds of guys that were at different parts of the city, and this is what you're going to do. As soon as they started the ambush, they had all this stuff that they had on the sides of the road. They pushed into the road for roadblocks, refrigerators, cars, set the stuff on fire, the tires, set that on fire. And as we're rolling through the city, that's what you see, man. We're dodging all this crap, trying not to get caught up in all of that. And you throw a track in the middle of all this fighting, now you're just dead in the water. Now what do you do? So you're at the mercy of all this escape from freaking New York kind of stuff where, you're Kurt Russell running through the city, trying not to die, trying to dodge all these obstacles, and knowing that your time is running out. You're on a clock. If we don't get to these guys, they will run out of ammo. When they run out of ammo, they are down to their bayonets that they have with them, and that's it. How long do you think they're going to last with that? Yeah, they're going to fight to the very last guy, because that's how we do it. But they're eventually going to get. All of them are going to die.
Now, did you and your newly found squad make it to the pin down platoon?
No, we were told to hold down the police station.
Okay.
So we took a key point in the city and held down the police station while the rest of the other guys kept going out and trying to look for them. They like I said, the Tinkers got called back in. They're the ones that gave them a ride back when they finally found them.
Mm. Yeah.
But after we got back from the police station, we went back out there on that same route. They said, okay, we're going out there and we're not scared. We're going to show them we ain't scared of them. So we went right back out to where they had been pinned down. We drove down there. We went, by the solder bureau. We were out there, and all of us were like, oh shit, all right, let's do it then.
And you kind of have to, right? You got to get back on that horse and get out there, not just to show them, but to kind of
show us, to show us that, hey,
yeah,
we took a lot of casualties, but we're still doing it. We can still do this mission. We're capable. Yes, we lost friends. A lot of guys died. A lot of guys got wounded, seriously wounded, had to go back to Hood, but we can still do this mission. And it's a morale thing. It's a fighter thing. When you're in combat arms, we weren't beaten. We were beaten down, but we weren't beaten, and we had to show ourselves. Yeah, you know what? We're still in this fight.
Mm-hmm. What are you looking for getting into this documentary that's going to be airing here pretty soon? It's been pretty heavily televised and advertised, and there's a lot of trailers out there, and there's a lot of stuff on social media that you and I are sharing around. I'm excited about it, but it's kind of a bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
I know that it's going to bring up a lot of memories and emotion about not just April 4th, but that period of time, right? And that deployment, those guys. And I don't know if I'm quite ready for it, but it's coming whether I am or not. So I'm just going to face it head on and embrace it. And that's kind of another reason why I'm putting this together and talk to as many guys to give everyone an opportunity to kind of share their story. But when it comes to the documentary, what are you looking for in the miniseries, in the story itself?
Well, I'm part in the little Facebook group for 2-5. I don't know if you're a part of that, but there's a 2-5 group for all of us that were there in War Eagle and anyone attached to 2-5. So, uh, Eric Borkwin, Ben Hayhurst, and Fowler, they were all there on set. Not mostly Borkwin and Fowler. Were there guiding them, telling them how it really was, making sure they got it right. And they constantly are telling the group what's going on, any questions we have. Even Miko Alan, he is in our group. We added him to the group, and they kept us updated on what was going on and how they wanted to get it right, get it as accurate as possible. And so I know it's going to be accurate, and I also know that some things have been changed because it's not just our story. April 4th, Black Sunday. It's kind of this generation's story. Anyone that went to Iraq, it's their story. So they changed some things to relate to every soldier that has been there. That way, anyone that watches it, even if you weren't there, you can relate to what's going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they changed some things so that the average person watching it that wasn't in the military but had family members or something like that, and they know a little bit about it, so that they can relate and they can get, understand what's going on and what's happening. So it is accurate, and it is also changed a little bit so that everyone can relate to it. It's going to be good, though. I already know it's going to be. I've talked to some of the guys that went to and some of the Gold Star families. I'm friends with Arciaga, his mom, and his sister. We talk a lot, and they went and watched it when it was at Hood, and they said it was, they showed the first 2 episodes, and they were very impressed with it. They were really, they said it was really good. So what I want people to see and get from it, because I lived it, I get it. And for me, it's a memory that's coming back and being played in front of me. So it's not like I'm hoping to, I don't know what the word would be. I've been there and did it, so I know what's happening. But I want my family, the people that I haven't been able to talk to about it, because even, I try to talk to people about it, my friends and stuff like that, about certain things. Some stuff just, I can't talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell them how it feels. I can't explain it, so I don't try, because if I do, then it gets frustrating, because someone that wasn't there could never understand, and that's okay. It's supposed to be like that. That's why we do it. That way they don't have to understand that kind of stuff. But for them to understand me as a person, as their friend, as their family, as their brother, that's what I hope they get out of it. I'm hoping for understanding from the people that I love and the people that, whose life I'm in. I just want them to understand why I don't sleep at night, and why, I'm going to watch it with my daughter, and she's asked me about these things, but I haven't been able to tell her a lot of stuff, most of it. But I want her to understand her dad, and I recently went through a divorce. The whole reason was my ex-wife told me, you're not the same guy. You're not the same guy. I did another tour after this one, but yeah, I'm not the same guy, and I understand that. I accept it. I don't want to be who I was before, because I think I'm better now. I think I'm stronger, but for some people, that's not acceptable for them, whatever, it is that I am now. But it would be nice if they got to see it and understand it, and you know that's what I want out of it.
So how was your first deployment compared to that of your second?
Oh, it's totally different.
Yeah.
My second one, I just did security for convoys delivering supplies through Iraq. So I just rode up and down, mainly MSR in Tampa. And we went to all the FOBs, all the way up to Mosul, down to Cedar 2, out to Gabe on the border of Syria, back to Balad, where we were based out of, which was nice because War Eagle was a little hole, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I had all the had the amenities at Balad. I missed War Eagle though. I missed being on the ground in the city doing that kind of stuff. I was a sitting duck that time. I didn't. The thing is, in War Eagle, out there in Solder City, running around, kicking in doors, stuff like that, I didn't even get wounded, and I got blown up quite a few times on my second tour.
Yeah.
I got wounded on my second one because we were just driving around as a big old target and got blown up.
Yeah, that's what we did our first our deployment with the BRT. That was our mission,
Yeah,
drive around, get blown up, and we definitely did that for sure. And that was kind of the interesting thing about being part of the BRT is we were the brigade QRF, so we literally responded to everywhere and anywhere in a moment's notice, and had a 24/7, 365 presence out on the patrol, keeping the main MSR Pluto and clear, and then we would on occasion drive up and down the other MSRs between the FOBs, keeping them clear. And I just remember that night, and we rolled into Eagle right before it got dark, and seeing those piles of gear and hearing kind of I'm in my truck, so I got my troop net. I got several radios in my truck. So I got the troop net up, but I also got the brigade net up, and I'm just listening to the chatter and
yeah,
trying to get a sense for the scale and complexity of what we were dealing with. And being the brigade QRF, we none of us knew where we would end up going or what we would end up doing. It was basically all just follow on fragos as it came. And
yep,
when we first got there, I remember the first thing that really, after looking at all the gear laying out there on the ground outside the aid station, somebody ran up to me, coming out of the aid station, ran up to me and said, "Do you have a combat lifesaver bag?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got one in my truck." We all had one in our truck, at least one. In most trucks we had multiples, but they said, "We're completely out of medical supplies. Could you please round up every CLS bag you could find?" Because we need them. And, along with the piles of Kevlar and OTV, there's, a pile of, bloody bandages and used saline bags and everything else. It was horrific to see. I mean, you watch war movies and you think that helps desensitize you to that. But when you're there on the ground and you see it for real, like, it's so different, man, And so I told the guys
yeah,
really quick to run back to their trucks and grab all of our CLS bags out of our trucks. So we did, and they were asking if we had any water. As we had a few bottles of water, we handed over, and by that time, it was time to it was getting dark, and we're getting our lights out and telling the guys to get their NVGs ready because we knew we were leaving. We just didn't know to do what. And then we got
yeah,
the order to escort the first round of casualties out of Eagle back down to Cuervo so they can get on the medevac and fly to the cache. And so basically the BRT, and if you listen to the episode, the previous episode to this one with Sal Zuniga, he was talking about this, and he was with 2nd Platoon BRT. I was with the headquarters platoon with the BRT, and the entire troop was out on the route, and we all had basically, several different types of missions, but most of it was, convoy escort and getting casualties to Cuervo. And then once we got to Cuervo, we had to load up HEMETs and LMTVs with ammunition and medical supplies. And I remember, oxygen. They needed bottles of oxygen. And then we escorted those vehicles back up to Eagle. And the whole time up and the whole time escorting down, we were getting shot at. And they were, there was a few roads where they were trying to burn it out. They were trying to block some bridges, so we had to be creative with where we were going. What made it tricky though is we were traveling around in 3-truck sections for the most part, right? And so we were really kind of flexible and nimble, and we were able to negotiate tight traffic and do a lot of different things with a small 3-truck section. But now we're escorting, these casualties down, and these casualties, they're in, 5, LMTVs, but there was like a deuce and a half and whatever vehicles they could drum up to bring them down. And I can't remember who it was. Some officer came up and asked if I was the lead vehicle bringing them down. I said yes, and they said there's some critically wounded soldiers in the back of these vehicles. You're going to have to get them down there as quickly as possible, but they can't get bounced around. So you got to be real careful about where, the route you take. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I got to get them there fast, but I got to be careful of how we get there. So we're not, throwing everybody around in the back of the, right. And so that just added a whole, and then of course we're getting shot at. So my ultimate fear was getting pinned down somewhere with, 2 vehicles of casualties, already wounded casualties. If that were to happen to our section at any time, it's not like would have the ability to take over a building or something. We have been screwed.
Yep.
And it was tough, man. It was a tough mission, but we did it, and we just. I can't remember how many flights, we called them flights, back and forth that we took between Eagle and Cuervo, but it pretty much that's all we did all night and into the next day. It just seemed like it never ended. Every time we would end up back at Cuervo, back up Eagle, there would be another, another patrol that got brought in, because you guys were Eagle was sending one QRF after another out, into the city.
Yep.
And then it just seemed like you guys were going out and coming back wounded, going out and coming back wounded. It just seemed like it just never ended, I remember one of the trips we were in Eagle waiting for the vehicles to get loaded up with casualties before we could take them out. And my guys were all, basically at their trucks. And at this time, we knew there was a lot of casualties, obviously. We knew they were KIA. We didn't know who, because, we were 182 Fisters, but we were attached to the BRT. So we had heard that there was some 182 casualties, but we didn't know who they were. And I just remember seeing like an LMTV. It was a covered LMTV that was parked kind of off to the right hand side of the aid station, and you could tell it was just like the tires were flat and like the engine was a little still smoking. And it was dark. I had a little flashlight on the underneath the side of my M4, and I walked over there and I kind of flipped the flashlight on to check out the LMTV, and I just remember the entire bed of the back of the LMTV, the ramp was dropped, or the back gate was dropped, and I shined my light in the back of the LMTV, and all I remember is the entire floor of the LMTV was just covered in standing blood. And there was literally, holes through the canvas, through the side of the truck, and I just kind of slowly walked around the truck or the LMTV and looked, and there was, literally, holes through the driver's door, through the windshield, blood in the cab, driver and the TC side, holes all through the engine block. I mean, 360 degrees on this vehicle was just holes everywhere. It looked like Swiss cheese. It was unbelievable. And I distinctly remember there was gear in the back of the LMTV. There's some blousing, some Kevlar, some boots. And I remember just picking up a Kevlar, and there was a hole all the way through the Kevlar. And I read the name of who it was, and I'm not going to say who it is on the air, but
I know who it was.
yeah, and I knew this guy, and it was hard, man, because right about then is when my guys were starting to come over, and I was like, no, go back to the, I was turning them away because I didn't want them to see that, because I knew we had to leave the fob and continue our mission, and I had to keep my guys' head straight, right? And as a senior squad leader, it's tough, because you want to console your guys, and you want to tell them everything, but at the same time, you got to do what's best for them. Sometimes what's best for them is temporary ignorance, right? And and so I kind of turned them away, and we went back to the truck, and I think my guys knew that I saw some shit that kind of shook me up quite a bit, and they wanted to know, but they knew that they probably would be better off not knowing right then. And I later told them, but it was just. After that, I moved my section kind of away from the aid station, a little bit out of earsight and eyesight, and I told the guy that was coordinating all the casualties that the convoy vehicles are going to be positioned over there, because I just man, I had to keep my guys' head in the game,
Yeah. No, I get it. I know. Yeah, you know what? I didn't see that LMTV till we came back to get gear a couple days later, but I saw the first one. I think it was Milton Berger's LMTV roll in. It was blood was coming out of bullet holes inside.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I remember this thing just wobbling in, and I didn't know what to think. And I was just filled with anger, and that was what made us go in the city instead of stay there at the aid station. Anger, I didn't care. I didn't care if I got killed. It didn't matter to me. I needed to get our guys out of there, and Rudy was the same way. It's, we didn't know who was killed until later, because we left right away, and but just knowing that these are the guys that we support, the guys that we train with, the guys that we chow with, the guys that we see in, the guy that you're talking about, I had just seen him probably that day, because I was talking to the first sergeant of his battery, and I was really sad after that, because we were friends at Hood and whatnot, and it was really a wake up of, we are actually in war now. This is what war is, and this is only our fourth day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you look at the rest of it? 361 more days to go, guys. We've already lost almost 2 whole platoons,
right?
Are wounded and down, and we have 8 guys that are dead. It's just a huge weight that you have to try not to let drag you down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Can't think about that stuff all the time. So you just put it at the back of your head and you like basically let your anger come to the forefront and drive you to do what you anger and love, man. That's it.
Yeah.
Love my brothers and I'm pissed that people are trying to hurt them. And you let that drive you and you don't worry about the sadness. And you know, it's in every single textbook. You don't do what we do. You don't lock it up and push it way down deep and leave it there. But that's what you have to do to survive, you know? You got to take all of it and put it someplace.
Yeah, and what's weird too is you raise your right hand and you swear to defend the Constitution of the United States and against all enemies, foreign, domestic, all that, right? I mean, you you take that pledge. You honor yourself up to and including the ultimate sacrifice. So you totally know what the potential could be. Like and then when
Yeah.
you get deployment orders, you're deploying, like and then you get on the ground and you see bullets start flying, like it's no surprise that you are where you are and you know how you got there, and you know what you could ultimately face. And it wasn't so much the fear of dying yourself; it was the fear of losing the guys around you. But they knew too, because they took it's an all volunteer army, and we all knew the stakes. But at the same time, like on one hand, I'm like everyone knows, but then it doesn't make that any easier. Knowing that we all knew the stakes, losing guys doesn't make it any easier, does it?
Doesn't know. Yeah. I mean, you can say he volunteered. He knew what could happen, but you still loved him. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
he was still your brother. It was still a guy that you drank with in the bees on the weekend, and you met his family when they came down for Christmas break and whatnot. And uh, yeah, you it's the hardest thing that you ever have to do. Killing people, it's not that hard because they're not your people. You know,
mm-hmm.
you get over it. Like the first time I had to shoot somebody, yeah, I hesitated a little bit, but after I did it, it got easier because I knew what I was doing was to protect my friends. You know, and seeing their bodies, that doesn't bother me. But having one of my brothers bleeding in front of me, that bothers me a lot. That that's what gets you. And you all know what you're there for. We were there. We're attached infantry units. Their job is to close with the enemy and kill them in close quarters combat. Someone's going to die, but the reality when you see it and you smell it and you taste the gunpowder as you're shooting, it's totally something you can't explain to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Either you understand it or you don't.
And the thing that it's impossible to describe to anybody is the smell. And I thank God we don't smell things like that in the United States, right?
Yeah.
But there's been a few times since I've gotten out of the army where I'll be somewhere and I'll catch just a hint or a whiff of something, that whether it's burning rubber or burning flesh or gunpowder or something. I'll just kind of catch a whiff of something depending on where I'm at, and those smells will just instantly bring me back to different places in Iraq, and not just bring me back there um, mentally, but bring me back there emotionally and feel the same I did, like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about our time over there and the guys that we lost and the guys that were wounded. Certain days are harder than others, obviously. Veterans Day, Memorial Day, 444 comes around, April 4th comes around every year, and I think it's important that we do do remember and we never forget. It doesn't, you know, they say time heals all wounds. I don't know if it does. Um, I don't know if time heals it,
No, I don't.
but you know, it might make things more bearable, but it doesn't heal it, right?
Yeah, I always say that. Yeah, it doesn't heal everything. You know, it makes it less, hurts a little less, but it doesn't go away ever. And you know what? I, I go to see a freaking head shrinker at the VA, and I told him, uh, even if there was a way that I could get over all this stuff, I don't know if I would want to, because what if I lose those memories? What if I lose that feeling? You know, my thing is, I don't want to forget those guys. I don't want to forget the feeling of loving them so much, how much it hurt when they were gone, you know?
Hmm.
I don't want to be numb to that. So I think it is good that we remember, um, you know, remember their sacrifice and everything that happened. Uh, but I don't want to get lost in it either. You know,
Yeah.
I did when I got back, got lost in that, and it was not a good time in my life. But
So that's
there is,
that's a good point, man. I want to touch on that a little bit. So there's this fine line, right? There's this tightrope between never letting ourselves forget and remembering our comrades and getting lost in it to the point where it affects us and prevents our ability to be productive and doing, you know what I mean, like there's that
yeah,
tightrope there. Like how do you know where that is? How do you balance on that?
I don't know, man. It's when you start going down that rabbit hole and you're like, all right, I'm on the wrong side of this. And how do you don't, there's no way to know what's too much, what's not enough. You just end up going down one way or another. And you know what? Just not feeling anything, that's another way of going down the rabbit hole too, because I did that for a long time where I just didn't have any emotions or anything towards anybody. And that was not good either, and finally start talking about things, and then you start getting these feelings back that you haven't had in a long time. And then now you're so freaking emotional, you can't control yourself sometimes. You're just driving and you see something that reminds you of someone that you lost, and you just start breaking down while you're driving, and you got to pull over on the side of the road and wait for everything to pass. Stop shaking, stop crying, stop, having this feeling like you're back there, in that place. I don't know. I think that the title that Martha came up with uh, was a good title, because you know what? We're all on this road coming home, and some guys have made it back, some guys still haven't. And I know me, I haven't. I'm still on that road. I'm trying to get home. I'm closer than I was yesterday, closer than I was the day before, but I'm still not there. I'm not home yet.
And
Hopefully one day.
some, maybe some of us never will be. But recognizing the fact that you're on that road and you're consciously making an effort every day to at least head that direction, I think is important, right?
It's extremely important, because you can be self-destructive and you get off that road,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're just nowhere. You're going nowhere. And, a lot of us struggled after I keeping in contact with the guys. A lot of guys struggle. I struggled for a long time, and I was not on the road, and I was just lost. That's all I can say is I was lost, man. I didn't know who I was. I felt like empty from this. Because, it takes part of you going through something like that, going through, especially something that big. as April 4th, and everything that followed. Because April 4th was just like we said, it was the beginning, man. Yeah, it was the thing that set it off, and it is what we define as Black Sunday. But it was the starting point for something a lot bigger, and you can't let yourself be defined by that. You got to be more than that. We're more than a battle in the city. We're soldiers and people and dads and sons, and you can't let yourself just be April 4th. You got to embrace it as that's part of you. It changed you. It made you have the perspective that you have now in life. But you aren't it. You got to think that way. I try to tell guys that, you're not April 4th. You're not that guy. It affected you. It changed you. Made you better though, because you survived. You're a survivor now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a fighter, and you know how to fight, and you know what it takes to get through hard times.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I've talked with a lot of guys, and I tell them the same thing. I'm like, it's absolutely it's absolutely okay to allow your service to refine you, who you are as a person, as a father, as a man, as a husband. Allowing your service to refine you is okay, but allowing your service to define you is not okay. Because
Yeah.
if it defines you and everything that you are, then it's almost a shackle on your leg that you can't break free from. And so it's important to understand the difference between allowing your service to refine you versus define you. And I think a lot of people that find it difficult to ever make it home from that long road are ones that allow their service to define them. And I got two questions. One, do you think talking about it, like you and I are right now with our brothers that we served with, do you think that's helpful in any way? And then additionally, do you think that this mini series is going to be the catalyst to allow some guys to finally open up, and maybe talk about it when before they didn't?
Yeah, you know what? It does help to talk about it. Um, the thing that is hard about that is you run into like family, friends. Sometimes they don't want to hear it, and it's because they don't want to know what you went through because it's too much for them. So they put on a hard shell, and they're like, "Well, you just need to get over it," or something like that. And that hurts you. That sets you back. Might push you off the road home, and you start questioning yourself. Should I feel like this? Am I wrong in feeling this way? Um, what am I doing? How do I change what I'm doing so that people accept me? And I think the miniseries, I think it's going to be what a lot of people need to turn a page and start a new chapter, because what's inside of them is this story. That's what's in them. They have this story inside of them, and a lot of people can't tell others about it, or they can't explain it fully to get them to understand what they're saying. Now, if you haven't been in combat, obviously you're not going to understand. But if I could see it on TV like that, then yeah, I get a picture of it, and I can see what's going on. These guys running and getting shot at, and how scary it must have been for them. How scary it was for us. And as a family member, a friend, or even just a regular person, everyone can take that and kind of understand a little better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Before this, obviously, I'd watch all the other shows that would come out, and it would be tough to watch. It'd bring back memories, and my wife would often look at me and just be like, because it impacts her too. I mean, she was at home, but
Yep.
but she was, she knew Johnson, she knew Drake, she knew father, and she knows these guys that were killed and wounded. We were family, and that it ate her up and it killed her. And so when we watch military films or whatever, movies, whatever at home, it's just as emotional for her. As it is for me. And she says, I don't know how you can watch. I don't know how you can do it. I don't know how you can watch that. She goes, I can barely watch that. I don't know how you can. And the truth of the matter is, it is hard for me to watch that. And in this series, it is going to be hard to watch. But I think part of that, I think feeling recognizing that there are feelings there, and that there is emotion, and being okay with it, right? I think when I first got back, much like you, I didn't want to feel. I didn't want. I didn't want to feel that hurt and that loss and that pain, because I thought it made me weaker, right? And so I kind of pushed it down and compartmentalized it and forgot about it. I distanced myself from the veteran community. I didn't talk to anybody, not even my guys that I served with. I didn't talk to them, and I really kind of I put myself on an island, thinking that I was protecting myself. And what ended up happening over time is I'd look around and my life wasn't getting any better, and I was still on the island, and hiding from it and running from it and suppressing it wasn't making it any better. It wasn't making it go away. It wasn't making it hurt any less. And it was finally when I decided, instead of hiding from it, I decided to turn around and uncover my face and actually look in the mirror and face it. And that was scary, man. But once I did that, and I reached out to the veteran community, and I started this podcast talking to other veterans, and started to coach and mentor and reconnect with my guys, I started to feel again. And at first it was hard, man. It was really, really hard, because when you finally let emotion back into your life, it comes in a big, big tidal wave, man, like a tsunami, right? But once you're okay with just accepting it, now whenever I feel emotion, I accept it, I let it in, I feel that moment, whatever it is, anger, fear, rage, sadness, depression, all of those things, sometimes all at one time, right? How can you be the saddest you've ever been and the happiest you've ever been all at the same time? It's possible. I've been there. And then I just feel it. I let the moment happen. And then I let it pass. And then I pick up and I move on. But it seems like every time I just let it happen and I let that moment be there and I feel it, and I really let myself feel it, and then it passes. It's like it's almost like it comes in and it washes some of it away. You know what I mean? And the more you do that, or the more I do that, the more I'm able to express my feelings about it and my emotions to guys, because there's still guys, today that we serve with that are still in a bad place in their own mind, in their head, emotionally. It's because they're still on the island and they want so bad to come off, they just don't know how. And I think that's where you and me and other guys, and I think that's what I really hope the series is going to do. It's going to expand some bridges across these islands, and allow the guys to kind of use those bridges to come together and begin to open up and talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that the series will validate a lot of guys. This is when other people see it and their family sees it, and because no doubt when their family sees it, they are going to be shocked, and they're going to cry, and they're going to look at their loved one that was there and ask them, how did you do that? How do you do it now? It's going to give them validation that it's okay to feel the way they do. A lot of guys think that they're broken. They're not broken. None of us are broken. You know, we're different. We were placed in incredible situations and we adapted to it. That's not broken. You know, that's us evolving as human beings and as warriors, because people don't like to admit, but they need us, you know. You know, they need us to be this way. They need us to have these feelings where we can go out there and do these horrible things to people that deserve it, you know. Uh you got to have guys like us, but when you get home, it's hard because nobody's like you,
Mm.
and you think you're broken, and then you have healthcare professionals telling you, you know, I went to counseling before I got divorced, and the counselor, you know, this guy has a master's and whatever. I don't give, you know, don't care what it was, but he says you're broken, but I can fix you. And I said, what? And he says, well, you're broken, but I can fix you. And I said, if you tell me I'm broken again, I'm going to break your face. And he looked at me and I said, I am not broken, dude. I said, you want to know what the difference between me and you is, why you think I'm broken? I said, it's because we're different. I go, I'm the guy that you need to do these bad things. I go, and let's say you and me got in a fight. He goes, well, I wouldn't fight you. He's all, because I know you'd kick my ass. I said, well, yes, I would kick your ass. He goes, but I'm a runner. I'm fast. I can run a long distance. I said, and that's where the difference comes in. I said, I will run after you. I am not as fast as you. I said, but you will quit before I do, because I don't know how to quit. You know, if you're my enemy, I'm coming after you, man. And I'm going to get you, and I'm going to find you, and I'm going to hurt you. I go, and that's the difference is I don't quit. You will eventually. I said, that's the difference between all of you that look at guys like me and say that we're broken. I said, it's your mindset. You don't have a fighter's mindset. I go, and that doesn't make me broken. That makes me better at fighting than you, better at killing than you. It makes me the guy that you need to look to when you need someone to do that stuff. And I just hope guys realize that when they see this and their loved ones, you know, validate their feelings that they've had all these years, is you're not broken at all. You are, when you're with us, when you're with your brothers, you're absolutely normal. You know, everything's relative to what you compare it to. There is no absolutes when it comes to human beings. You're normal in this group of guys here. Yeah, you know, what we do is awful and it's necessary, but you're not broken, and don't ever think that you are. You know, these guys are brave. They have bravery beyond anything that I could put into words. You know, we always say it in our group. You know, uncommon valor was common amongst everyone that was there during that year, and that's what sets all these guys apart. And it's special, and it's beautiful, and it's something that they should never be ashamed of. And I hope that when this series comes out, that they look at it and they see what they did, you know, and they see how honorable it was to be there and do the actions that they did, and that they were driven by love, you know, for each other. Yeah, there was anger there and a little bit of hate, maybe a lot of hate. That's not what drove guys out into the city to do what they did. It was love, man. Love for every single guy out there, you know? And that's what made guys do everything that they did and put their lives in danger and not care that they, you know, I was talking to Matt Fisk, the guy that wrote the other book that I put on in the group, the one that you hadn't seen. And he was out on there, and he was telling me, you know, he goes, yeah, I was out there and it was scary and I was afraid. He's all, but I could not imagine being at the fob and making the choice to go out there, because he didn't have a choice. They were ambushed. You know what I
Right.
mean? They had to fight. But to be the guy at the fob, to be the mechanic or the artillery guy or the FO or anyone else and make that decision to get in a vehicle and go out in the city and he goes he goes, I don't even think about it. I haven't reached that point in my life where I can think about that, because he feels responsible
Mm.
for a lot of stuff that happened. If the guys hadn't been coming to save him, maybe they wouldn't have died. But I told him, man, as soon as we heard that you guys were pinned down, we were gone. There wasn't anything there that was going to keep us back. I don't care if the whole city was fighting us. We were going to get to you. I was like, there was no need to ever feel that way, because we love you. You're our brother, you know, and I will go to the end of the earth to get you back, to get you, to find you. And if that means I have to die, so be it. Doesn't matter. Don't matter to me.
Yeah, because Fisk would have climbed into that LMTV too if the shoe were on the other foot.
Yep.
He would have. I mean, I know. From his perspective, he always wonders, right? Would I have? But you're right, man. And that's the beautiful thing about the bond that we all share is it completely surpasses everything. It surpasses politics and race and religion and everything that everyone seems to be pissing and moaning about in the world today. Those moments during those times in our lives, none of that mattered. It was it
No.
was just pure love and wanting to go. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't about rank. It wasn't about unit. It wasn't about MOS. It wasn't about. It wasn't anything. It was pure, unadulterated love, care, and compassion for your fellow man. And I say man non-genderly, right? Because there was a lot
Yeah.
of, a lot of women in our units that were attached to us and in sprinkled throughout the brigade, and they played a huge part in all of this as well.
They did. I'm in contact with one, and I'll actually send her your way. Maybe she's in that place where the road branches, and it's like, well, which road do I take? Keep going the way I've been, or talk about this and try to go home.
Yeah, man.
But she was there. She was there helping us on the fob. She was helping the guys when they came in, and she saw the LMTVs, and she saw everything that happened, and she did her part. Yeah, I mean, I tell people, because I tell them, I grew up. I didn't have a family. My mom and dad didn't care about me. I raised my brother and sister when I was young. I just was there to them, and none of my other family really cared about us. I didn't know what family was. I just knew the love of my brother and sister. But after April 4th, I knew what love was. I knew that you could love someone that much that you would sacrifice everything. And I had a family after that. I wouldn't change anything that's happened for the world, because I have a family now, and we're all very close. Even the Gold Star families, we're in constant contact with them. They feel like they're part of us, like we're all family. I call them mom.
Mm-hmm.
For the guys that we lost their moms, I call them mom. They call me son, and I would never give that up. I'd go through April 4th indefinitely. Groundhog Day me up, man. because because what we got out of it was something greater than that, and I'm very appreciative for that. I'm not a religious man; I'm a spiritual man, and I believe that something higher was out there with us. And the thing is, I went to Iraq. I didn't even believe in God. I didn't think He existed. I did after April 4th.
Hell yeah.
I did. I found him.
Yeah, man.
I found him out there, man. I, f- when there's no doubt for me in my heart, what happened out there, if more people didn't die, uh, I just think that we were there for a reason. Everyone that played a part there was there because they were supposed to be, and there was great leaders out there and great soldiers out there and great honor and love out there. It was something else.
Yeah, man. Well, I just want to say thanks so much for coming on the show, and thank you for your bravery in sharing this story. And I say that wholeheartedly because it does take a level of courage to open up and show that vulnerability and being okay with sharing it with whoever's listening to this, right? And
Yeah.
and hopefully your message will touch somebody and will help them when they're standing at that fork in the road to realize which decision they need to make, right? And I hope your message gets across. I know it will to those listening, and as well as the miniseries as well. And by all means, man, reach out to your brothers, let them know, bring them onto the group, and get them on here. I want to.
Yeah.
My plan is to interview as many as I possibly can between now and the last episode airs, which is, I think, second week of December, I think it is. But I'm going to be interviewing everyone that I can from every unit, and just to share their story, their perspective on that battle, and just create an opportunity for people to share their experience, and in hopes that it will reach some folks out there that really need to hear it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. I'll put it out to our group that we got, and you should probably just join the group anyway.
Yeah.
I'll let them. I'll let the moderator know.
All right, man.
And I'll put it out there. Yeah, we'll get guys in there. I think it's important for people. I think they should, as many people as we can get to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Thanks. Be safe. Stay awake, huh? Thanks for listening. You can find all of the show notes for this episode over at changeyourpov.com/04-04-04. This is protected content, so you will need to register and log in to gain access, but it's free, so stop over right now. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. And hey, I would love your feedback. Let me know what you think of this podcast series. Head on over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. I read everyone. And you can do that simply right now by heading over to changeyourpov.com/iTunes. Tune in. We have more amazing guests coming on in the days and weeks to come. Stay in the fight and shoot them in the face.